Welcome to the latest Motley Fool scoreboard. I'm on in Chocolate Balloon. We've got longtime fools, Jose Najarro and Dan Kaplinger, giving a 1 to 10 rating to a top 200 stock in the primary Hidden Gems database. It's Onto Innovation, ticker symbol ONTO. First, we'll rate the strength of Onto's business, including factors like industry and competition. 10's invincible, 1 is hopeless. Both of you have 8, Stan.
Yeah, I'll tell you on it, the biggest value of the Hidden Gems database for me is like coming up with companies that I otherwise might never have run into. Because I'll tell you, when Jose recommended this company for us to talk about, like I'd never heard of it. I had no idea what it did. And my understanding, the simple way of putting what Onto does is it basically helps to improve the semiconductor manufacturing process. That way, the customers that are using Onto's services, they can get their chips to be higher quality, which is very timely right now because everybody's trying to get more chips out of higher, faster quality, and that's exactly, this kind of thing is exactly what those folks need.
Yeah, I mean, Dan broke it down pretty well there. I mean, I give it an 8 as well. But onto it's, you're increasing the yield, right? Manufacturing chips is hard work. And as we're getting into this era of AI chips where they're getting smaller and smaller, but not only smaller and smaller, you're actually kind of even putting chips on top of each other. There's just so many creative ways that's happening in the engineering side of chip manufacturing that any of those pieces, putting them together, making them smaller, you could have small defects. So Onto helps kind of create inspections and make sure that the yields are doing great so you can kind of control that process of the manufacturing. And like Dan mentioned, right now with this old AI chip market, everybody being supply constrained, all these different innovations is sitting in a very, very interesting spot. So I'm giving it an 8 as well.
For management, a 10 is Warren Buffett, a 1 is Homer Simpson. Both of you have 7s, Dan.
Yeah, Mike Plazinski's done a reasonably good job. He's been on the job since 2019, so going on 7 years now. He's seen a good growth ramp up in the company, but there's been some volatility in the stock as well. And sometimes I ding CEOs a point or two on this when they don't do as good a job of managing that volatility as I hope that they do. Onto's back on an upswing, so I think Plazinski's kind of getting his feet under him. But that was the reason for the 7.
Yeah, I'm not copying Dan's scores, I promise. I'm also giving it a 7. Main reason is just most of the top management on the side of the CEO is kind of less than 5 years within the position. Obviously, they do have kind of outside semiconductor experience, but most of the management there is still pretty fresh to Onto. The other thing is just this overall market, right? They are a smaller player. The semiconductor equipment is extremely cyclical. So I would love to see Onto hasn't really seen too much of a cycle, so I can't really give them more of a better grade. So this is kind of like the benefit of the doubt, giving them that 7.
Right, y'all are going to differ a little on this one. For financials, a 10 is a fortress, a 1 is yikes. Jose's at an 8, Dan, you're at a 7.
Yeah, I think I was a little harsher than Jose here just because Onto revenue and profit growth, it's been there, but it's been just a little bit lumpier than I like to see in this part of the business. I like to see a more steady upswing, but I have to say Onto's got a really strong balance sheet that kind of opens the door for future strategic moves if it decides it wants to go in that direction. Having that flexibility, I think, could be really helpful for it going forward.
Yeah, so I give it 1 point extra here at 8. First, just like Dan mentioned, very strong balance sheet. Just to put in perspective, about $1 billion in cash last time I saw, and no debt, and they are positive in free cash flow. Even during this lumpiness in the down cycles in revenue, they were still able to maintain that positive free cash flow. I would have given them maybe a point higher, but right now, like Dan mentioned, the lumpiness in revenue, they did see a revenue decline most recent quarter. I personally believe that trend will shift as we continue to hear big players like TSMC saying they're going to increase CapEx even more in the upcoming year. So I think that's going to help boost revenue growth a little bit more. But just because of the lumpiness, I did not give them a 9. But at least the growth potential gave me the ability to give them 1 point higher than Dan.
All right, Jose, let's talk valuation. How well will Onto stock do over the next 5 years, and how safe is it? 10's a sure thing, 1's a lottery ticket.
So first, let me start with safety score. I'm going to give it a 6. The main reason the safety score is kind of like a coin flip is just the cyclicality of the equipment space in the semiconductor industry. And while not saying we're at the top of that cycle yet, I think we're further than 50%. We might be 51 or 52%, but for that reason, I give it a safety score of 6. For 5-year returns, I'm going to put it in the 10 to 15%. Due to being a smaller player and the massive capex we're seeing in fabs, I think there's an opportunity for outperforming the market by just a bit.
My scores were a little different, but I think my philosophy is basically the same. I put it down at 5 to 10%, but with a safety score of 7. I think we're going to be at the top end of that range at 5 to 10%. I just want to see a little more evidence that Onto is going to capture the full growth that we're seeing in CapEx throughout the industry. In addition, I think there is a chance, at least within that 5-year period, that we might start to see a slowdown or get a hiccup in that CapEx. And if that happens, I think it's going to be stocks like this that are going to potentially see a pretty big downturn. And so that's kind of weighing on the score. But I think with a lower return, I'm more comfortable that Onto is going to be able to, like fall within that range. That's why the safety score is a little higher.
Thank you to both Dan and to Jose. They're giving Onto Innovation an overall score of 7.1 out of 10. Pretty good. For top hits, neither has one, but Jose thinks Camtek is another name to look into. Look out for a new scoreboard every market day at 7 p.m. Eastern. Next up is KLA Corporation. Till then, Fool on.